Mitch Lawrence, Forbes, Sporting News, Sirius XM, NBA Radio. He joins us now to take a look at all things NBA. We got a lot going on. It's a very busy time in the league. And it seems, Mitch, that the games currently are almost secondary.
You noticed, huh?
Unfortunately.
Not the secondary. They're pretty bad. First of all, I love all my media compadres who, after the Celtics beat Washington in Game 7, they decided that the Celtics had closed the gap on the Cavaliers. How's that working out?
Not so well.
How many times does the number one seed have a home game and get blown off their floor?
Yeah, exactly. Good way of putting it. I mean, you talk about a gap. It's a canyon, everybody. And until LeBron leaves Cleveland or retires, whatever comes first, that gap ain't closing. I don't care if they get Markelle Fultz. It's really bad. I mean, the playoffs have just been so bad because you got these two teams that are far and away better than anybody else. We've seen it with Golden State, okay. The Kawhi Leonard injury obviously factored into that. But if you think Boston can get a game off Cleveland, I just don't see it. I mean, here's the biggest problem for Boston. Cleveland's got more talent, more depth, and more LeBron James.
Right. No, you could have stopped with they have LeBron James, right?
Exactly. Nobody in the East can match up with that guy. And a lot of teams in the East have problems matching up with Kyrie Irving. They got the two best closers in the conference. And poor Isaiah Thomas and Al Horford, they've had a nice season. But, tonight's the season because they don't win tonight. They're going to win the series anyway, but they'll never come home from Cleveland with a chance to get another game. It'll be 4-0, another broom, another sweep. And then we'll have about a month and a half between the end of the final conference finals and the NBA finals.
June 1st. I think that you said something that gets undervalued a lot, Kyrie, and how good he is. I don't know that he gets the attention. I mean, is he similar to Pippen, whereas like the Batman, or is he better? I mean, I feel like Kyrie just kind of gets lost in the shuffle, but he's great in his own right.
Yeah, well, he's not quite Pippen. What he is. I thought the original Isaiah Thomas was tremendous, getting to the basket and tough as nails. And this kid is even better. His ability to get to the basket off the dribble and to score and to make game-winning shots and pressure shots, I mean, he is phenomenal. And I'm not just saying it because he lives 2 towns. He's from 2 towns over from where I am right now, Jersey kid and all, but he's got everything going for him. Now, of course, he didn't do any winning till LeBron came home. You have to factor that. But he's got we've seen him making shot after shot, what he's done in the playoffs so far. So they're in great shape as long as, they got great depth now with Korver and Deron Williams playing well, and they're just going to toy with Boston. I love how LeBron, after that performance the other night, said they didn't even play a great game. He's just toying with Boston, toying with their heads. Even Brad Stevens is admitting he's never seen LeBron this good. So, here's the problem now. And I don't know if you guys saw Greg Popovich after the second game. His team got run off the court, and LaMarcus Aldridge was scared to shoot, where he talked about we didn't have belief. We didn't have the belief we could win this game, and you need to have that. I want to see how much belief Boston has now taking the court. Toronto had none. You saw Toronto. They knew they didn't have the belief to go out there to beat Cleveland. And if you don't have that, there's no way. I don't care what sport you have. You walk out on the field, you don't think you can win, you're not going to win. I want to see what kind of belief Boston has now.
Hey, Mitch, do you think Kyrie could have taken this Cavs team to the playoffs without LeBron? Is he that good?
In the East, yeah. I mean, now, does he have Kevin Love as the number 2 guy? I still think, yeah, they would have been a top 8 team. I don't know where. I've never really given it any thought, to be honest with you. But I think he's become a much more explosive, dangerous player with obviously LeBron, because you got to pay attention to LeBron. I mean, look what happens when they put LeBron with the second unit. And I love, he makes everybody better. I remember when they got Kyle Korver, right? Everybody's saying, boy, you know what, this is great because Kyle Korver is going to be a great fit in Cleveland. Who isn't a great fit in Cleveland? You're playing with LeBron James. He makes everybody better. Me, you, anybody else you want. We could go into Cleveland with LeBron James. All right, maybe not me and you, but he makes everybody better. So, of course, everybody's a great fit.
Mitch Lawrence, Sirius XM NBA Radio, Forbes.com, and Sporting News NBA. Here's one for you, okay? I have my tiers, okay? I have three guys in my number one tier: LeBron, Durant, and Kawhi Leonard. They're my three guys. They're the top tier players. They're the number ones.
Steph Curry in there?
That's what I was asking you. Should I put Steph Curry in there, or is he a number in that second tier?
No, he's got to be in the first tier. He's the unanimous MVP, the only one in the history of the league. And I know he hasn't done great in the NBA Finals, but yeah, the guy's made 400 threes in a season. Some teams don't make 200. So,
well, you brought up a point though that's interesting. You said LeBron playing with the second team, and LeBron has made it to the final. That's how could Steph Curry have a okay supporting cast and bring them to that level? And that's, to me, the separation. Those other two guys, I think, can still. I think Durant and Kawhi could still be the best guy.
I'm not buying that. I mean, look, Curry as an offensive player, there are very few people like him. And that MVP season he had, there was nobody else like him. He was doing Jordan-esque stuff. He was a transcendent offensive player. I know it's limited to that half of the court, but it's hard to do these hypotheticals.
Yeah.
It really is, because I want to see Kawhi Leonard make some takeover playoff games and take that team. As Kawhi Leonard, I know he's a Finals MVP. It's kind of hard to say this.
Yeah.
Does he make big time? I mean, I remember the Oklahoma City series last year. Where was he against Oklahoma City to close games? Couldn't get it done.
Yeah. Oh, look, he's had. But did you mention he was a Finals MVP, and that kind of
was a Finals MVP? Of course, that was a case also. I covered that series. And I'm telling you, that's the air conditioner series. Pop was screwing around with the air conditioning in Game 1. It was we were sitting in a sauna down there in San Antonio, Game 1, and that was as close to a 5-game sweep as you ever saw. LeBron was outclassed by Kawhi, but Dwayne Wade fell off the cliff, and then I don't know where Chris Bosh was, but yeah, I know how great Kawhi is. But like I said, guys, these hypotheticals. I don't know some of the answers to. I'm very upfront saying that.
Yeah, no. And look, it's all opinion based, right? It's how you judge.
I don't have the brain power of LeBron James to give you an answer.
It's Mitch Lawrence with us here. Speaking of Steph Curry, he's going to be a very, very rich man. This new designated player contract is going to be a very interesting thing for not only Curry but many around the league, and it could change this offseason big time.
Well, look. Now the league and the players in the latest collective bargaining decided if you're voted to an all-NBA team, and there's some other levels too, but if you're making an all-NBA team, you can qualify for these gigantic Supermax deals. But Gordon Hayward and Paul George didn't make any of the three teams. And I don't have a big problem with that, but the problem now is they don't qualify for the Supermax, so it gives Indiana and Utah less control, and that means that the difference between what they could get in their teams and what they could get from maybe Boston or the Lakers may not convince them to stick around. They might not want to stick around anyway. Gordon Hayward's mentioned a lot for the Celtics. They have their eyes on him, and we all know Paul George has one foot out the door, and he'd love to play for the Lakers. So it just means what they try to do is, with Durant leaving Oklahoma City, they were looking for the owners to try to give these small market teams more ability to keep their players. And, like there could be a $75 million difference between what a team could pay versus a small market team. And now with guys like Hayward and Paul George, they'll lose that ability. Maybe now that forces Utah and Indiana to trade them. We'll see. But, yes, Steph Curry's going to be making $40 million in a year. He's been making about 11 or 12. He's been a bargain so far.
Yeah, as you mentioned, that really affects George and Hayward, who have been, they could have been making big time $200 million contracts, right?
$207 million. It's all in my Forbes piece. I'm sure everybody's clicking on the links for that. But yeah, they could have been making 5-year, $207 million, which is when you watch. I mean, Gordon Hayward's been in the playoffs 2 out of 7 years, and we all know that Paul George. He had his moments as a playoff performer, but he had David West around him and George Hill and Lance Stevens in the last couple of years. He hasn't gotten in the first round. You want to give those guys north of $200 million? Be my guest.
And by the way, yes, at Forbes.com, Mitch_Lawrence. You can follow him on Twitter to get the link to that and read that whole story about how that could really affect things. Because Paul George, you just mentioned Lakers. They end up getting the number 2 pick here. That could turn things around for them pretty quickly. But do you think teams, when they got the number 2 pick, is their phone ringing right away with people trying to see what they have on their roster? D'Angelo, this is a huge pivot for them.
Yeah. Well, I was with Magic Johnson the other night at the draft lottery, And his phone wasn't ringing when I was talking to him with a bunch of other guys. I mean, he was elated to get the number 2 pick. I mean, he had the most to lose in the lottery. You got to remember that.
Oh, yeah.
You know, they could have, if they finished 4th, the pick would have gone to Philly, and then that pick for 2019 would have gone to Orlando. So Magic was ecstatic. He was very happy. He didn't even win it. Obviously, the Celtics did. It was a great night for them. But, yeah, Magic will get that pick, and we'll see if it's Lonzo Ball. I got a piece also. I'll also promote my little piece I did on Sporting News where, De'Aaron Fox, who's the Kentucky kid who outclassed Lonzo Ball when Kentucky beat UCLA in the Sweet 16 down in Memphis. He wants to go to the Lakers. He wants to play for Magic Johnson. You're already starting to get, and there's a lot of smoke out here. This is traditional when you're getting now. We know where the team's orders are and who's interested in who and who's calling up Magic. And, now people are saying Magic won't take Lonzo Ball. He's going to go with Deion. Nobody knows at this point. He doesn't know. They're going to have guys in for workouts. They'll have Lonzo Ball in for a workout. They're going to have De'Aaron Fox in for a workout, all these point guards who Magic, obviously, as he said, the bottom line for them is, he needs more talent, and what he really means is he needs a Kobe Bryant, he needs a Magic Johnson, he needs a big-time star. Now, I don't know how he's going to get that. I don't know if you're going to find that in that draft. In this draft, it doesn't look like you are right now. All these guys are 19 years old, so we'll see. So get ready for weeks and weeks now of smoke screens, and this guy doesn't want to go here, and all that stuff.
So, Mitch, you don't think that Ball to L.A. is the slam dunk that many others do?
Well, it's May 19th. There are no slam dunks right now. Even Fultz to Boston, is that a slam dunk? I don't know. I mean, we're going to have to see how it plays out. I know that he's a good fit there, and Magic's going to love the fact. Magic loves the fact that Ball is a big time playmaker who makes guys around him better, who passes the ball. He's got that real knack for setting guys up. If you watch UCLA last year before he got there, their offense was okay. He got there this year, and their offense was really good because he elevated his teammates. Whether it was Steve Alford, the coach's son, or anybody else, the Leaf kid, they were like a different team. So I'm sure Magic loves that. But, in talking to people, and I have this in my Sporting News thing, everybody now is fascinated by the Russell Westbrook dynamic in the league where you want to have speedy guys who can really push the ball. That's not Lonzo Ball necessarily. Fox is the fastest kid in the draft. He might be faster than another Kentucky player. John Wall is considered the fastest in the league. He can really run. A little problem with his shot, but he can get his shot anytime he wants in the half court, at least in college. So a lot of people are very high on Fox. We'll see how it all plays out. I'm not going to say anybody's a slam dunk right now because there's no LeBron James or Shaq in this draft or even a Tim Duncan.
Yeah, Mitch Lawrence is with us, and his piece on De'Aaron Fox is interesting because, the Sixers sit at number 3, and if it goes the way that a lot of people are predicting with Fultz and obviously Ball, then the Sixers are in a really interesting spot
Jackson,
at number
Fox,
3.
Which way do they go?
Yeah, man.
I'll tell you what. If I were them, I'd take a shooter. I don't know if it's Monk. I've heard great things about Tatum. I mean, they want Ben Simmons to run the offense, right, and be the facilitator.
That's right.
Fox is really more of I don't think Fox is a 2, he's a 1. They're going to have to figure that out. There's some people with Philly who think that Fox isn't a top 5 guy. We'll see about that talent-wise. But I'll tell you what, Jason Tatum. Now, a lot of people love Josh Jackson out of Kansas. His free throw shooting, very weak. He came on as a three-point shooter. He's a big-time competitor, not a tremendous shooter. I've talked to people who already think Jason, and they're not Duke people, by the way, there are millions of Duke people around, but I've talked to people who love Jason, the Tatum kid. They think he's going to be a big-time scorer and shooter in the NBA with three-point range. That sounds like a guy who's right up Philly, right? Exactly fits what Philly needs.
It kind of does, and you're right about Ben Simmons. They want him to kind of bring the ball up there, and how big and what was the reaction to the pick swap? Was that a big deal or not that big of a deal? I mean, how was that being received around the league that 2 years later, here's the Kings, they get into the top 3? I mean, what's the Kings' reaction to having that pick swap lingering over them?
I really didn't spend a lot of time on that, to be honest with you. Now, I had a big conversation with Dave Yeager, who I've known for years, the Sacramento coach, and he didn't want to be at the lottery. He was not happy about being there. He wants to go. He comes from Memphis. He's telling me, he said, He said, my first day off this year was April 13th. I haven't done anything since. He says, I don't know what to do with myself. It's like ridiculous. We always used to be in the playoffs in Memphis as a assistant coach or head coach. I don't know where anybody stands on all this. All I know is Philly's got a ton of picks coming up. And Sacramento, the big problem for Sacramento is they've got a perception problem. They're guys who you hear don't want to play there. They don't want to work out there. I feel bad for Yeager in that way because he knows what he's doing. He's a good coach. And I'll tell you what, he's the type of guy, he's got great relationship with players. If they go in there and visit, they'll be convinced to play there. We'll see how it shakes out. But we all know Philly, the big thing for Philly, obviously, can Joel Embiid stay healthy? He looked great the other night up on the podium, up on, holding court there with people. But can he stay healthy? Who knows?
Once he figured out how the pick swap worked, too. He's a little confused
initially.
We're
all standing there. He had the best facial expressions because he was dumbfounded as anybody else. His dumbfounded looks kind of summed up the whole night in terms of the Sacramento and Philly dynamic.
Yeah, and we know, Mitch, here locally, the Sixers have the Lakers pick next year and the Kings pick in 2019. So they have four more picks over the next 2 years to add to this year's pick, Simmons, Embiid. So maybe by the time that all comes out, that canyon will be filling a little bit, and they can all get closer to LeBron.
Well, here's the deal. I mean, picks sound great. It's like all I heard for the last 4 years was about the Brooklyn pick for Boston. Oh, now I really want to see how Markelle Fultz is, if that's the pick, or if they parlay that into another player. Who knows until these guys play. It's great you got the picks, but you got to turn them into players at some point.
If you're Danny Ainge, do you trade that pick? I mean, is that the smarter move? Say, look, I'm taking an established guy now. It seems that so many of these guys rather roll the dice than go for the established player. It's like the price is right. No one wants behind door number one.
Yeah, I don't know what Danny Ainge is going to do. Danny Ainge certainly, he does things differently. He took Jaylen Brown last year, right? And nobody had him 3. So I don't know what he's looking at. I mean, there are people around the league who say everybody looks at Cleveland and is waiting for LeBron to start showing signs of slowing up. So the argument about that is if he's not slowing up, why build a team right now to go head-to-head with him? Why not kind of take a younger player and build more slowly? Who knows how Danny Ainge feels about that? I don't know.
Hey, Mitch, you're around the Knicks a lot. You think they're itching to move up a little bit?
Well, I don't know how they're going to be able to do that. They got a lot of problems. I mean, they'll get a decent player at 8. But they were only going to get 7. I mean, this is, they sent Clyde Frazier there, Walt Frazier with his special suit. Did anybody else notice he was wearing Laker colors? As he described it as purple and gold.
Yeah.
But anyway.
He looked real uncomfortable answering those questions.
Well, the thing about Walt was, I thought the Knicks had been in the lottery so much. I said to Walt, you've been here before. He said, no, this is my first time. This is before when we were just talking. And he really thought that he was be able to bring home a 1, 2, or 3 for his buddy Phil. They go back a long ways. The interesting thing, like Walt had all these, he had the rabbit's foot. He also said, I'm wearing my rings. He was wearing his championship rings. Guys, his championship rings are about a quarter of the size of the rings that you see that the teams get now.
Yeah.
They wear like headlamps, these things are gigantic. It's amazing people can actually wear them. And he's got a regular conventional old ring. So I said, that's not good enough. He left, and it wasn't good. I mean, none of it worked out for the Knicks.
Nope.
This is typical Knicks luck. They got to figure out what to do with Carmelo. They got to figure out what to do with Porzingis. I guess Carmelo owns a soccer team in Puerto Rico. He ended up firing the coach the other day. I guess he'd like to fire Phil. Maybe he's getting ready to do that. But no, we know that the Knicks, they're going to get a point guard at 7 or 8. It's either going to be Dennis Smith or the kid from France. I can't pronounce his name.
Yeah, Frank.
Yeah. Something like that. But anyway, they got a long way to go. And, everybody's waiting for Carmelo. Now the big word is Carmelo's going to take a buyout. I don't know if you should really bank on that because Carmelo's going through a divorce or separation, and he's got a son who plays AAU ball, and he's close to his son with the team and all that. And so it doesn't sound like, from talking to some of his people, he's not like ready to run out of New York because now he's got this added thing in his family life. And, Carmelo loves New York, as we all know. So I could see him trying to stick around and trying to outlast Phil Jackson in New York.
Tilakina, maybe is how you say that Francis guy's name.
Yeah, right. Tilakina, exactly. That's the kid. And he's supposed to be, people have compared him to Drew Holiday. I don't know. I mean, it's like Porzingis. I don't know about these guys till they play here. Other people will scout him. But a lot of people do like him, and they feel like he's going to be a pretty good point guard.
All right, Mitch Lawrence, Sirius XM NBA Radio, longtime NBA columnist. You can check out his piece at Forbes.com and over at the Sporting News as well. So a lot of different ways to consume Mitch Lawrence here on the NBA. We got a game tonight, by the way. We got a game tomorrow, and we'll be back on Monday to break them all down. Thanks, Mitch.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Enjoy the weekend.